Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my quick tutorial in how to get the best quality out of your gaming footage using OBS. There are plenty of videos about this out there on YouTube, but this one is focused on recording and specifically recording for YouTube. So after you've done adding all your sources here and messing with the audio mixer and all that stuff, first thing you want to do, of course, is head over here to settings. So on the general tab, these settings do not affect quality. These are basically like quality of life and your personal preferences, really. So we're just gonna go skip. String as well, this is not for this video. Output, this is where we're gonna start. So we're gonna head over to the recording tab. This is probably gonna come with set to as simple. So just click here and change to advanced. Keep the type on standard here. And recording settings, this is obviously where you want your recordings to be storage, right? This is up to you. And for the recording format, I'm gonna recommend you to use MKV, but by the time you're done recording your video, you're gonna have a MP4 format on your hands. And I'm gonna explain more about that later, but I would recommend to keep this on MKV. And for video encoder, if you have it enabled and if you use a NVIDIA GPU, you definitely have to use the NVIDIA NVENC H.264 encoder. This is far better than the default X.264 encoder because this one uses a specific chip on your graphics card that is dedicated for recording and streaming. If you're using a AMD GPU, it's likely you're gonna have this as something like AMD HWX264 or something like that, but the idea behind it is the same. It is a chip that is dedicated just for recording and streaming. And from my personal experience, this is far better than using X264, not only because the quality is about as good or even better, depending on the architecture of your GPU, but it also doesn't utilize a lot of the resources of the GPU for that. That is, you don't really lose performance if you're playing a game and recording on the same computer. For audio encoder, just leave it on the default AAC. This is good and it's going to work in most editing softwares out there. And for the audio track, I keep mine all 4 tracks activated, but that's because I always record my footage and I always like to keep a separate track for the video, the game footage, the game audio that is, and my microphone audio. This is a bit confusing to set it up. If you just want to have a single audio track that is gaming and microphone, for example, just leave the first one enabled right here. I can't change it because I'm currently recording the video. Just keep the number 1 checked. For the rescale output, leave this off unless you know what you're doing, but it's not gonna be part of the video. We're not gonna mess with that. Also, don't write anything on custom muxer, and file splitting, unless you know what you're doing, keep this setting off. Now for the encoder settings, these are probably the most important settings on OBS to achieve a great quality on your video. For the first option, rate control, keep this on CQP. Unless you want absolutely perfect quality, you could choose lossless right here, but you probably don't need it unless you really want that absolutely great quality so you can add it later. But in my case, I found that CQP is really good. I get really great quality out of it, and I'm satisfied. And just below it, you're gonna have the CQ level. This is basically how good you want the quality to be. And this goes from 1 all the way to 52, 51, something like that. But here, a lower value means a better quality, right? This is on the opposite that you would think. 51 is the worst quality you can get from this, and 1 is the absolute best. And over the years, I've messed with this a lot, trying to find the best quality and everything. And for me, the sweet spot has been between 17 and something like 22 or maybe 21. These days I'm running on 17 and I'm really satisfied, with what it looks. When I look at the raw footage, I'm like, yeah, this is really good. The colors and everything, the bit rate is pretty good. So I'm satisfied with it. But once again, this is something that you're gonna have to mess with it, right? This is gonna come down to your preference. But in my case, between 17 and 22 is great. Keyframe interval, I don't know why this is set to 0 because I always keep it at 2 right here. But the preset, this is also very important to the quality of your video. And this one is a lot more intuitive, right? Because he says right here that P1 is lowest quality and P7 is the best quality. I think this is going to depend a lot on what GPU you're using, how powerful your GPU is. I'm gonna put my settings on the description of the video so you can measure and have a comparison for what you have. But as a GPU, I have a 3070, the RTX 3070. And I found out that keeping mine on P7 is pretty good. I have no trouble like in gaming performance or recording performance. This is another setting that you're gonna have to test on your computer, right? See how great, like definitely start from like P7 and keep bringing it down unless you see that it's affecting, I mean, you're dropping frames on the recording or it's affecting the performance of your game. Tuning, if you can, keep this on high quality because once again, it will affect the quality as well. Multi-pass mode, even though this one says like 2 passes full resolution, I found out that you don't really get a improvement in quality compared to like single pass, and it does increase the resource usage a little bit. You know, you use a bit more of your computer to get this to 2 passes. So I just keep in mind on single pass anyway, the quality is great. You don't really need to go over that. For profile, keep this on high. I didn't see this affecting the performance on OBS or the gaming, so just keep this on high anyway. And these two settings, they can affect the performance on your GPU. But if you can, definitely leave at least the cycle visual tuning on. This is the one that I really noticed a difference when I was doing some test recordings with the option on and off. You know, it definitely, like, especially in games that have like high movement, there's a lot of like particles and all that stuff. Leaving this option on improved it a lot in the recording of the video. This GPU setting is basically like which GPU on your computer you want OBS to use. In my case, I only have one GPU, only the 3070, so I just keep mine at 0 anyway. But if you're using a multiple GPU setup, you need to know what is the number of each one of them so you can set it right here. For the max B frames option, I have this one set at 2, but it doesn't matter because this setting is attached to the look ahead option. If you have this turned on, it will use whatever B frames are necessary to get the quality you're targeting. So even if I put here 2 or 3 or 4, it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to look for a slightly less quality setting without compromising your GPU, turn this option off and then set this 1 to 2. Click on apply and you're good to go right here. We're done with this part. For audio, this is the bit rate that we've set right here before. In my case, I have 4 separate audio tracks. There's no real reason to use anything below this, right? The audio bit rate isn't really going to require more of your computer to do so. Just keep this on the maximum anyway and you're good to go. On audio here, keep the sample rate at 48. Just like the other audio setting, there's no real reason why you shouldn't use this one. And for the channels, I keep mine at stereo just because this is the default one. But you do have an option here to change to like 5.1, for example, right? But unless you know what you're doing, keep this one at stereo. For the video setting, this is the resolution of your monitor and the resolution you want to record your videos at, right? In my case, I have a 1080p monitor, so my base resolution should be 1920 by 1080. This one needs to match the resolution of your monitor. The output option is the resolution that you want your video to be recorded, which should be the same resolution as the base resolution. And common FPS, this is the frame rate, of course. If you want your video at 30 FPS or at 60, this is where you change right here. And for the advanced tab, there's one important setting right here. For the process priority, I always kept mine at normal, never really had the need to go above normal or something like that, unless OBS is really chugging on your computer. I keep mine on show active outputs. Once again, this is up to you. And for the video one, this is the important part right here. I only have directly 3D11 enabled on my computer. I'm not sure if there's any other here, but this one works just as fine. And for the color format, keep it at NV12. If you're doing a recording for YouTube, there's no need to go any higher than this unless you really know what you're doing or you're recording a very like tech heavy video or something like that. You really don't need to go beyond NV12. The color space and the color range, these are actually important settings that can cause some problems if you set this incorrectly. For the color space, keep yours at Rec 709. There's also an option here called sRGB, which from what I looked up, it's kind of like very identical to 709. So it's likely won't make any difference for you anyway. So keeping this on 709 is good. And for the color range, you have 2 options, limited and full. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but keeping the color range at limited is the best option if you're recording game footage for YouTube. The file name formatting, this is up to you. This is how I like to record my stuff. Don't click on overwrite. and automatically Remux to MP4. If you set this option here to MKV, like I said, you want to have this option right here, turn it on. And to complement what I said before, the reasoning why you should keep your footage on MKV is because if something happens on your computer, if OBS crashes, or if your computer crashes, or you lose power or anything like that, if you were recording this on MP4, that footage is going to be lost. There's no way to recover. I've looked up into solutions on how to recover a lost MP4 footage, but it looks like there really isn't any. So the solution for that is to record your stuff on MKV, because if something happens to your computer or OBS, you can recover that footage from MKV, and you can record this inside OBS. If something like that happens and you lost that footage, but you were recording on MKV, inside OBS, you want to head over right here to File and click on Remux Recordings. And right here, you click on these three little dots and you select the MKV footage. And then you just click on Remux and it's going to convert that video from MP4. That way, you didn't lose your footage. And that's it for the video. These are the settings that I use for my recordings, and I hope that it will be useful for you as well. Thanks for watching. As always, if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like and a comment too if you can. It would help me a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.